Hello and welcome to another little tutorial about how to use Maya's game exporter to export an animated rig directly into your Unity project. Now this assumes that you already have a Unity project and have an existing rig with animations on it. So the first thing you want to do is go in and get Maya's exporter, which if you don't see it should be right around here. And if you don't see it, you don't have it loaded. So instead, come to Windows, Settings, Preferences, go down to the Plugin Manager, and with the Plugin Manager here, you're going to see everything that you've got loaded up. Go into the search bar and just type in the word game. There's two things we need to enable here: Game Pipeline and Game FBX Exporter, if you have them. Now I've got them here in 2024, plugins, etc. But you have to find out where it is. You can do a search.mll on your computer to see where they're hiding. And I'm going to not only click on Loaded. This supports the back end, and this is specific to the FBX exporter. They work in tandem. I'm going to click on Loaded as well as Auto Load, meaning next time I start Maya, just automatically have it here, and close those. I should now come up here under File, and there's the game exporter. So just having it come up is, you want to verify that it's actually using it first. And next I'm going to read in a file that is a animated character. Now I've got this animated character set so that he's already inside of my Unity folder, and he's there for not just myself to animate, but he's there for others to animate and export and verify each time. Now, if you're not seeing the game exporter here, what you might want to do is restart Maya and just see if and when it comes up. Let's check that. So give me 1 second to restart Maya. And here we are. We're back. Just restarted Maya. I now have the drop down and it works perfectly. So I'm going to go into my recent files and just read in my previous character. I have actually put animations in here, and we'll go down this a little quickly. First of all, you don't have to have this character baked. It can actually be rigged complete with their rig in this file. And so, in other words, this is the file the animator could use, and they don't have to bake simulation or bake the keys. You can actually export a baked character non-destructively from this Maya file and then save it. It won't save over anything that destroying any of the rigging. So what I'd like people to do next is to come up here to the second tab in the game exporter, click on Animation Clips, and then you should see pretty much everything that you want. If you want to add an animation, you can click on this and type in, it starts from frame 1 to frame 200, and then you can say, you know, it's iRobot run or iRobot_run, whatever you'd like. These two buttons, you press play, and it actually keeps it down to just that frame range, and you can add another one and another one, etc. You can even click on these little movies to set the playback range to just that clip, and then to play it to see if it works. A couple other things in here. One thing I've done is I've actually written some previous scripts that had a listing of the animations for the characters, and I'm going to just read it into the game exporter because frankly it does a really good job, and it does one of the things that my previous scripts did not do. This is where it started out. I called it Move Lister 2.1, and then something called Sequencer, a little more powerful, from Python. So I'm going to import it from my original script, and then I'm going to export to the game exporter. And what it does there is oops, got to select my animations. How about all of them? I expect to export to the game exporter. It's now in the original file. No worries. It put it into a MEL script. So those of you that have a little tooth for coding can actually take your own homebrews of your frame ranges of all the animations and then put it into the game exporter, as I'm going to be doing here. Because the game exporter has a section here under animation where you can destroy all these animations, but also you can read in existing animations you've saved out as a list, which is what just happened. So in this case, I'm going to come in here to the folder, the characters, and you can see it's actually right there right now. It's called itself this MEL file. I'm just going to rename it because it tends to name the animations once you read them in, and I'm just going to go over this and name it iRobot. Excellent. Hats off to Mr. Bradbury. So we've got this folder, we've got .mel, and when I read it in, it propagates all the animations here. So those of you that like a bit of Python or some mel scripting, you can follow the format by saving an empty container, looking at the format, and doing your own homebrews. So I've now got all the animations that I want. I'm going to deselect them because I just want to check one at a time, and I'm going to export to my local directory. Now, here is something very important down here at the bottom under path. Make sure you have opened this up to take a look at it. You're going to export to a certain directory. Now, if I go to this directory and I say, okay, I'm going to go to characters, I'm going to go to iRobot, and I'm going to save it right here. The problem with this is that if I choose it, it's going to basically put in this long absolute path, and it's going to be useless for anybody else that wants to download this because they don't have a external G folder like I do. So you don't want to put absolute values in here. And the way I like to get around that is I go to my my Unity project and I say set project under file. And the minute I set the project to Unity projects, robot race, assets, Maya, or whatever you want, however you folks do it, it's going to export to a relative location. See that? Characters robot. So all I have to do is make sure that I'm going to the, instead of going here, that I'm going instead to the relative location for the characters, iRobot, etc. And now it goes to characters, iRobot. And that's going to work for anybody that downloads it and then sets the project of Maya to the same Unity folder that I've set for mine, because they're going to have the same access to these folders. So if you're working within a larger team, what this means is that I'm the person that modeled, textured, rigged, animated this, but I can send it to the engineer who wants to re-export it for whatever reason, to check sizing or what have you, and they can, she or he can export it to their relative directory without any of that noise of absolutes saying, oh, I got to reconnect this or reconnect that. So the first thing I like to do is I like to check just to make sure that the first thing is working. The first animation is working. Now it looks like it's fine. It's ready to go. Let's just assume that it is, and we can export basically just the things that I want to export. The first indulgence that I like to do with this GameExporter is not export everything, because we got a rig here that lives in Maya. I kind of want to strip that away. So I'm going to grab the skeleton. This is the absolute skeleton of the character. There's another IKFK skeleton here as an intermediary. Ignored that. But grab the basic skeleton and the mesh. That's really the only two things I want to export. So instead of export all, I'm going to go to export selection. And it should be going to my relative folder. And I'm going to press export. You want to replace it? Sure, of course. So it says it's done. I get excited. But first things first, I want to make sure that I've checked it correctly. Here it is in the directory. I've got skate slow FBX, skate slow FBX. 180, that looks kind of small. Let's see if this actually worked. And by the way, I've gone a little too fast, sorry. What I like to do is I like to open these FBXs in, right click, open with Autodesk FBX Review. Now that is a wonderful bit of freeware from Autodesk that you download, and whether you're on a Mac or whether you're on a PC, it is operating system agnostic. And so you can check your work in FBX Review. Why do I like to do that versus checking it by reading it back into Maya? Maya is very powerful. It's also very forgiving. It will make up for a lot of things, whereas this FBX Review will show you more or less the ground truth of what this is going to look like in your game engine before it gets there. So before I even try to open this in Unity, I want to check it in Autodesk FBX Review. I always open it with this, so I have the luxury of double clicking it and it brings it up. I press F to frame. It's got pretty much the same controls as Maya, so I hold down the Alt key, rotate around, and I say go man go by either left clicking in the window, getting the controls back, right clicking in the window to bring the HUD controls back, and I press play, or I can press the space bar. it is not moving. What's wrong? I did a mistake. Something's terrible. Oh no. Oh no. So it's 180 kilobytes. That's kind of small. Why are you not doing what I need you to, which is I'm exporting the skeleton and the robot. Well, and the robot mesh. Well, here's the rub. You actually need to export the entire skeleton. So not just this, but the entire thing. So let's do this again by clicking robot skeleton and going up to select hierarchy. It grabs everything. And then I grab, holding down the control key, I grab the mesh. Now I just want those two things to be exported as a test for making this more efficient later. So I'm going to click on skate slow again. It's already selected. Re-export. Do you want to replace things? Yes, I will. Okay, let's go back into the same folder. And suddenly it's a lot bigger. This has more hope. Double click, press F, move around with the Alt button, and then press play. Okay, he's moving. That was it. All right, with this assurance that I have finally done it correctly, what I want to do is I want to indulge in something else with GameExporter, which is that you can make a little grouping set. Now, before we do that, let's come over here. We've said export selection, export all, export object set. Why do we want to do that? Well, if we make an object set of what we have selected, then all we need to do is select that object set in the future. So right now there's a lot going on here, but if I click on make object set on the right, and then I type in GameExporter _ iRobot set. Okay, good. So watch this. I click off the character, and instead of selecting anything, I just make sure it's on object, export object set, which means that Maya will automatically and somewhat invisibly grab everything that it needs to for this to correctly export. Let's prove it one more time. In fact, maybe let's prove another one. So now I'm going to try skate fast. Export, done. I'm going to go over and check it. I always like to do this before I do them in a batch. Skate fast, double click, and press spacebar. All I wanted to see was them moving. Excellent, good. So with that selected, I can now save my Maya scene, and the person who wants to export this in a relative way can always go and just use the object set. So you want to save this set with your Maya file. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to do something I usually never do, which is write over existing scenes, but I've got this backed up. So I'm going to save the scene here because it's got all of these animations to it. In fact, I'm going to select them all. And the other thing you can do is click on if you want. Rather than go and open up a folder, I can actually always open these in FBX Review. So let's go back to maybe just one animation. Let's go back to our friend Skate Slow. And I'm going to click on export. And now it's going to say, you know what? You want to replace it? Sure. And then it's going to pop up FBX Review automatically. Now, the first time you do this, it's going to ask you for the location of where FBX Review resides on your computer. So just you might want to do a search for it first, find it, give it that actual location by going to it and saying this is where the program lives. Again, be it on a Mac, be it on a PC, it's arbitrary. It doesn't matter. So from here on out, every time it exports, it's going to pop up FBX Review to help validate that it's fine. I don't want to do it every time, but I have that luxury the minute I turn this on. So this is now optimized. It's ready to go. I could click all of these and just say fire away, and I would check them, of course, afterwards. But this is a pretty good way to make sure that you can export individual things or as a whole by just making sure that you're using the object export sets and making sure you have an export set as well. You should be able to see your export set up here in the outliner also as a validation. So I hope that helps, and happy animating.